And we're alive. We actually got this all figured out this week. So, no Jeff, so it's me running the hangout at least. How's everyone
Well,
doing?
we'll muddle through somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I've moved up to two places.
Cool.
I'm yeah, how sad.
Hmm.
Tied for 22nd place out of 25. Let's see. In the winter, let's see. Oh, where's brother Jim? Oh, he's fallen off the pace.
Yeah, but that's one that it can change really quickly.
Yeah. Let's see. What do we got here?
Well, we're trying to see if we can get one more to come. I sent a text. I haven't heard anything back yet. Um, so hopefully it won't just be Steve and I sitting there looking at each other going, okay, so what are we going to talk about now?
Let's see. Well, there's some good stuff in the news here.
There is, there is.
Um,
Okay, that'd be a good one.
I should take a note here. Have you seen any signs of spring yet up there?
Oh, it's, well, the snow's all gone. Little tiny bit of green in the grass. So yeah,
Oh, good.
we've actually had some pretty nice weather. It's got up to 70s last week, and
Oh,
we've been 50s most of the time. So it's actually been some really quite nice weather.
well, I've been going through my spring checklist. Things happen here. I don't know, maybe the same most places, but it's like first thing that happens are the crocuses, and then the
Mm.
next thing that happens are the Bradford pears, and then the next thing that happens are the forsythia. The ones with the bright yellow flowers.
Oh yeah.
And then the next thing we're looking forward to are the red buds. We have lots of red buds down here, and it's
Oh
the
nice.
prettiest time of.
Oh, I bet.
So the red buds and the azaleas, they come one right after another, and it's the prettiest time. So everybody just waits for that, and then they all go out and take pictures.
Oh nice. It's a good thing. Let's see here. Find some good articles to talk about here.
Well, St. Joseph. I like the Daughters of St. Paul are turning 100.
Oh, that's a good one to emphasize
Yeah,
since we have some good friends in that order.
yeah. Pope on the death penalty.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one on 8 reasons to pray the Stations of the Cross.
Oh, that's a good one. I haven't read that article though. Let me look at that.
I like admittedly, I like these 8 reasons or 10 reasons or something like that because they're really easy to just, you can kind of hit the highlights right off of their bullet points.
Yeah.
Don't have to read quite so hard.
We could talk about that whole Alatea website.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you. I was a little dubious with it when they first
Mm-hmm.
announced it, but it
Mm-hmm.
seems like it's coming along pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, we can. Yeah, definitely, we can kind of. Because I agree with you. It's kind of the same way. It's like, what is this? Well, first of all, just the name,
Yeah,
kind of hard
doesn't
to
really roll off your tongue.
no. Well, nothing for Father Daryl. So
Anybody in the chat room? You want to join us?
yeah, there we go. Let's see here. We got a few people hanging in there. They haven't abandoned yet once they saw that it was just the two of us, so that's a good thing.
Call Father Roderick.
Yeah, there you go. Isn't he busy with some other things right now? I don't know if he's recording or not, but I guess not. I don't know.
I don't know. Let's look.
Unfortunately, he starts so early for me here that I don't ever really look to see what he's doing.
I don't know.
Must not be, huh?
It's hard to tell. I mean, there's a when you go to the live page on SQPN, there's a Geek Week
Hmm.
up front, but I don't know if that's a new one or an old one. Let's see. 9:30.
Yeah, it should show the little live bullet
Well,
up
I
at the
don't want to
top of the
actually
screen.
start it because
Oh.
it'll. Well, it looks like
Those are people
it
in the
looks like
chat
he
room.
lined. Looks like he signed off Saturday. I don't know what time zone this is. I think he must be off.
Okay. Well, I'm sure he's busy too, so.
Yeah.
Well, we may as well go
Jump
with
in
what we
and.
got. If Father Daryl decides he's able to join us, great. If not,
All right,
oh well.
folks, we're gonna have a real old-fashioned train wreck.
Yeah. Oh, I should grab my train whistle. I don't have a train wreck sound, but I've got one of those wooden train whistles.
Oh yeah.
I'm
I don't have any noise
gonna do
makers
that. I was
here.
gonna that's thinking about doing that, so I'm gonna grab that. Oh, there we go. I always get a kick out of these.
Yeah.
Someone gave it to me a couple of years ago. It's just been sitting here in my office. It's kind of fun.
I saw a man make those one time at a state fair. You know, he could crank those out pretty quick.
Boy, that would be impressive.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll officially start. Like I said, if Father Daryl can join us, great. If he can't, well, just it'll be what it is.
All right.
So I guess Captain Jeff will do all the editing and everything. Hopefully, he'll make it into a reasonable show.
Yeah. We should need to give him a mark to start from, though.
Okay, we'll do it right now. So 3, 2. This is Catholic Weekend for the weekend ending March 21st, 2015, episode number 265. Well, howdy, y'all. You might notice a different voice starting out this morning. Captain Jeff can't be here. He's off doing his pilot thing. He's off flying somewhere, I'm sure, somewhere about 30,000 feet or so. So Father Corey here to take the reins this morning. I'm not alone, though. It's not just me. If you watched the stream a couple of weeks ago when we were having all the technical or I guess last week with all the technical difficulties, you know that wouldn't be a good thing because, yeah, it'd be kind of boring. But Steve Nelson's here with me. How's it going, Steve?
It's going well. It's going well. It's a nice Saturday morning as we're recording this, and I'm glad I could be here. So
Well,
you and
glad.
me together.
Yeah, exactly. Glad you could be here as well. Now you've been off traveling yourself. You've been pretty busy.
Yeah, my job requires, especially this time of year, we I work for two fraternal organizations, and we have what we call district conventions. We have 6 regional conventions this time every year, and I'm going to 3 of them. So I had the first one last week. I was in Philadelphia.
Nice.
Well, actually, Westchester University, which is about an hour west of the airport in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I was able to go visit a friend in Delaware during part of that trip. So that was one of the states that I haven't visited. So I got to
Oh,
check off
nice.
one more state. So I'm now up to I only have 6 states left to visit, and I'll have all 50. So I
Well,
was kind of excited about that.
I think you're doing better than me. I've got most of the. Well, I guess just. No, I think I'm probably less than you, or still more than you to cover. So, oh, good. Yeah, and you're still doing your planning, I suppose, for your national conventions and all that kind of fun stuff too, huh?
Yeah, so gosh, I tell you, I've only been in this job 6 months, and there's been a real steep learning curve. And just yesterday, I signed the contracts for our 2017 national convention,
Jeez.
and I know, and I'm already starting on our 2019 convention. We do them every 2 years,
Yeah.
on the odd numbered years. And it was signing that contract was like buying a house. I mean,
Oh,
the
I
amount of
bet.
money that we committed to, and I was just like, whoa.
Yeah, it's funny because I think people have the mindset, and I know I have, that a lot of times when people have groups like yours have these big national conventions, it's something where they plan for a year, they get the convention done, they take a week or a month and just relax and kind of de-stress, and then they start over again. But you're really planning them constantly, aren't you?
Yes, and when I worked for SQPN, that and doing the CNMCs, that was good training for this.
Good.
But we did 1, 2, 3 day conferences for the CNMC, and what I'm doing now, we're basically putting 12-day conventions together because we start with a lot of meetings and training for our students and things like that before we actually get to the convention part of it. So, like this summer, I will be in Lexington, Kentucky for our convention, and I'll be there for 12 straight days,
Wow.
staying at the hotel there, just doing nothing but running meetings. And
I was going to say you're going to be busy running everywhere, I'm sure.
yeah, and I'm going to be so exhausted. I'm already exhausted just thinking about it. So
You're going to come home and sleep for 2 days straight, just not even
yeah,
think about it.
yeah. If you know any, for everybody out there, if you know somebody who is a meeting planner and they do this kind of thing for a living, I have a much greater respect for the amount of work and the amount of intricate details that you have to keep in mind. So kudos to you people that do this for a living.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And there are people, and there's a reason why people get paid good money to be convention planners.
Yeah, there's a whole different language that they speak. The hotel people,
Oh yeah.
and the language they speak when they're organizing meetings and everything. And whoa, man, it's complex.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm glad I don't have to worry about anything like that. Even just watching, we would have our diocesan Council of Catholic Women meeting. We'd have them every year, and as the spiritual advisor to that group, seeing what they go through to plan it. And this is a small diocese. There might be 50 people, 100 people on a good year.
hmm
Imagining what other groups go through.
And we're not all that big. I mean, the most we might have at one of these is 1,000 people,
Mm.
which sounds like a lot, but there are some organizations that bring in 5, 10,000 people
Oh
at a
yeah, I was gonna
time.
say for some of these conventions, that's not a big one. I know for
Mhm.
this year CNMC, we're planning about 200 or maybe a little less than that. But so we're a pretty small group. But yeah, you hear conventions where there's even Catholic conventions like a National Catholic Youth Conference.
Mhm.
They hold in Indianapolis every year. That easily is upward, as I understand it, of 10,000 kids or more.
Right, right.
And that's.
And I'm hoping to go to the CNMC this year and the Eucharistic Congress, the Atlanta
Mhm.
before that. And I know that's 25,000 people. Most of them are local, but still, that's a
Yeah.
lot of people you have to figure out where to put.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's why they use the big conference room, or the big whatever convention room, or whatever you call it, that it's
hmm
can seat
Yeah,
tens of thousands of people,
yeah.
and
And
probably
somebody
does
has
on a
to
regular basis.
and somebody has to plan to make sure the chairs show up.
Exactly, and they're arranged and lined up in the right direction. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
one thing if you've got 50 or 100 chairs that you need to rearrange. It's another thing when you got 25,000.
Right.
What do you mean you wanted the stage on the other side of the room?
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Well, what's been going on with you, Father?
Oh, well, it's been the Lenten usual stuff. Actually, this has been a pretty quiet week. We've had our penance services, we've got our Stations of the Cross and things like that. Doing our Lenten
Mhm.
practices. Fish fries, always a good thing.
Oh yeah.
Got to have the Knights Columbus fish fry. Always got to have the good food. And of course, starting to do that. Okay, Easter is 3 weeks away. I got to start thinking about it now.
hmm Well, do you have people joining the church?
Not this year. Last year, we're a small, very small parish. We only have
hmm
about 200 families between the main parish and the two missions. So, but last year we had 9 baptisms,
Oh,
adults
nice.
to infant. So that was fantastic. Line them up all in front of the altar and do the baptisms was just awesome to be able to do. And of course, I wanted to line them up so that everybody could see, how many people we had. I wanted to, emphasize instead of have them all cluster in a group as
Right.
people naturally do. Um, everybody, no one wants to stand out, so everybody kind of hides in the cluster. But it was nice. It was very beautiful last year. Unfortunately, this year we don't.
Mm.
I think we'll have an infant baptized on Easter Sunday, I believe, as I
Nice.
recall, but which is always nice. It was funny. The family comes up to me and says, "Do you have a problem with having a baptism on Easter?" It's like, no, we want that.
Right.
We like baptisms on Easter.
Right.
It's
I
like
went
baptism.
to I went to the Easter Vigil last year at our cathedral, and I think they had, with all the confirmations and everything, there must have been 40 people that joined the church. And while I enjoy that, they actually do the vigil at midnight, and
Ooh,
everything. So
wow.
yeah, so it was like that was almost 3 o'clock in the morning when I got home, and I was like, I really enjoyed that, but I am beat.
Tired. Yeah. Well, yeah, we ours didn't go quite that long. I think ours was 2 hours max because we had the baptisms. Usually mine Easter vigils are an hour and a half or so. I'm pretty quick when it comes to liturgy, I'll admit it. But it was you would love the monastic style. When I was at seminary at Mount Angel out in Oregon, which is run by Benedictine monks,
Oh, okay.
they would do it at 4:30 in the morning so that it would finish up right at sunrise.
Oh, I bet that's nice.
It's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's as many bishops have pointed out, it's contrary to what the rubrics say. It's supposed to be in the evening of the night before, but it is so beautiful. Yeah, you get up there. Of course, again, you're waking up at 4 in the morning to get over to the chapel for
Hmm.
4:30 service, especially when you're in the choir, as I was. So you have to be up at 4:30 in the morning with a good voice.
Yeah. Nothing like rolling out of bed and trying to sing the Exultet.
Yeah, well, this was well before I had to worry about that, thanks be to God. Um, but trying, we of course we bring out some very elaborate pieces because you want it to be beautiful.
Sure.
So you're warming up as you're heading over to the church, but it was beautiful because yeah, you get out at 6:30 in the morning, and they always put on a really nice Easter brunch in the cafeteria, and then you go back to bed for a few hours.
Right. Because there are more masses, right?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, the seminarians, we were good to go, but uh,
Oh.
of course, the other priests usually wouldn't come to that, or some of the priests would, some wouldn't. It depends on if they were going to help out in parishes. But
Hmm.
yeah, that would be a little early. I would not want to do that as a parish priest. That would be the only mass here in Malta if I did that.
Right.
I would not be doing three masses beyond that. That would be too much. I would be tired after that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I love the Easter Vigil. It's always one of my favorites. It's up there with midnight mass.
Hmm.
Being able to do the midnight mass and do all the smells and bells and everything, and it's just a beautiful service. And I some priests would cringe at this, but I do all the readings. I do all seven of the
Mm.
Old Testament readings. You got to do it. It's one time a year. People can
Right.
sit there for a longer mass. If they don't want it, they can go to the Sunday morning mass. That's my opinion.
Does your church allow you to when you're doing those readings to you start in darkness, right?
Hmm.
Do you continue that, or at the cathedral after every reading they turn on a little bit more light, just a little bit more light, and then
I
when they get to the
Right. I've
uh,
seen that, and we really can't. We've got basically four switches for the entire church, and one of them's the spotlight on the altar. So
mhm.
basically, we've got three switches that light up the building, and they're staggered. So there are four sets of lights over the pews, and it's every
Mhm.
other one turns on with a switch. So
Oh, I see.
we really can't do that, and we really don't anyways, because this is kind of
Maybe
my liturgy fan coming out here, but when you look at the rubrics, it says the light should be on before the exultet.
I mean, a
So
little too dramatic with the
yeah,
lighting. You don't want to be too dramatic.
I've seen it done. It is beautiful. I mean, it really is. Parish I was at before I entered the seminary, we would actually do the readings by candlelight,
Oh.
where it would be pitch black, and the readers would come up, and the altar servers would be standing there with candles. Of
Hmm.
course, there were enough altar servers; they were transferring back and forth, so they weren't standing there for all seven readings. But it was very beautiful. I mean, it really was, and it was very striking. Where it was this, you know, it was dark. It was 9 o'clock at night because the sun had gone completely down, and about the only light was a little bit coming in from like a street light outside, and that was about it. And then you have this one candlelight, and that's all you see in the church.
Mm.
You couldn't see anything else, and people of course came in darkness, and it wasn't until the Gloria that all the lights came on and the candles were lit, and get to see how beautifully the church was decorated and everything. And it was an old church, so it was very beautiful to begin with.
Yeah, that's I appreciate that symbolism, of the darkness and the light, and
Yep.
I hope other people take it for what it is instead of it's like, why are the lights off?
Yeah. Well, for me, I get the best view when we come into the church because, of course, I'm up front with the candle, with the Easter
Mhm.
candle, and I love seeing the church light up because, of course, you come into this darkened church and everybody is holding their little candles lit,
Mhm.
and as more people come in, it lights up more and
Mhm.
more and more, and it's just so cool to see. And by the time it fills in, the church is just lit up about as well as it would be if the lights were on.
Mhm.
And it's just beautiful to watch that go, and you really do kind of see that light coming into the world, if you will. I mean, and that's the symbolism of it,
Mhm.
that light of Christ in the world. Of course, I always enjoy it too because I get to play with fire.
Right. Yeah.
We've got a fire pit that I bought a couple of years ago, and it works really well for the Easter fire.
Mhm.
So I put it in our courtyard between the church and the rectory.
Nice.
So everybody gathers there because it's a nice kind of sheltered area. So if the wind's blowing, which is pretty normal in Montana, I hate to say,
Yeah.
I know Oklahoma's the same way.
Yep. Yep.
I think they had a song about that. No,
Yeah. Something about sweeping the plains. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, the You got the wind blowing and everything, and so it's really nice to have that courtyard where it's very sheltered. You can sit out there and not, unless the wind's just howling, which at that point you're probably not going to have much of a fire anyways. It's pretty calm inside the courtyard, so we can
Mhm.
have the fire out there, and that works extremely well. We can get a nice little fire going, and as long as the priest does it right.
Right. That's the only thing I regret about our cathedral is that it was built over 100 years ago, and so it has two courses of steps that come up to the front doors of the
Oh, right.
church, and so there's only like this little, I don't know, I don't even know what you call it, entryway. It's not
Hmm.
very wide, and so they can't really build an Easter bonfire. So they
Yeah.
have this little hibachi, this little tiny
Yeah.
flame,
Exactly.
and the words of the readings don't really match this puny little flame that they have to build.
I can't remember the exact way it's phrased, but like that, it's this roaring flame or this huge fire or something like that. And it's yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was when I was in the Air Force. I spent 5 months over in Saudi Arabia, including over Easter in
Oh, really?
2008. I was deployed there, which was a fantastic experience, and it was actually was one of the reasons why I'm a priest now is because I got to know the chaplain there.
Oh,
I
okay.
was over there because there wasn't much else to do on base, so you could go sit in the rec hall and play, PlayStation or go to the chapel. So, but I went to the Easter Vigil there, and there because it was on an Air Force base and because we were in a foreign country, there were very strict rules about your religious practice, including doing things like starting an Easter fire. So you couldn't have an open fire. So the priest took like those little aluminum pie pans, put a little basically a Bunsen, or not a Bunsen burner, but a sternal can, and that was our Easter fire. It
Well,
worked.
yeah.
It was an Easter fire. It wasn't much of one, but it did the job. So we had an Easter fire we could light off of. But you fit the needs for what you've got.
Right.
But as we're still in Lent, this is still a good time to be preparing ourselves for Easter, and try to do a segue here. And I don't think it's going to work very well, so I'm just going to say I'm not as stylish at this as Captain Jeff is. So
Well, some of Jeff's segues are a little rough.
yeah,
Like, speaking of corn.
yeah, exactly. Easter.
Right.
There's a great article actually in Alatea. As I was kind of commenting to Steve before the show, I like these articles where they've got 8 points or 10 points. They make it really easy to kind of understand what they're saying and make it easy to kind of skim. Perfect for the internet, when everybody just skims the articles anyways. But it's 8 reasons from Pope Francis, taking from different writings and addresses of Pope Francis, why we should pray the Station of the Cross during Lent. As I mentioned earlier, one of our practices here in this parish is Stations of the Cross. Every Friday evening we have Stations of the Cross, which is a beautiful. I've always loved the Stations of the Cross. I've always loved being able to walk with our Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And Pope Francis, like I said, he kind of emphasizes some points throughout his talks that reminds us why it's so important. One of the things he tells us is they put us into the story. When we walk the stations, we are literally or figuratively walking with our Lord. We are there in the story. It's not just sitting in our church meditating on these things, but in a way we are walking with Him. I don't know. Do you do the Stations of the Cross much, Steve? Or
I do. I've only been able to make it once this Lent just because of my travel. But I've always appreciated it, and I've had some really good experiences doing it in different places. Like
mm-hmm.
I remember I did it one time in Guatemala with a group of students, and we did it on Holy Thursday.
Sure.
Just because we knew Friday was going to be, it's a big deal there. They do
mm-hmm.
a live procession and everything. So we thought, well, we'll do it
Cool.
on Thursday. And we were in there all by ourselves and doing just ourselves. And the thing is some of the townspeople, they saw us in there and they started to gather outside the church and watched us. And the priest came up to us later and he says, thank you for doing that, because you made such a great example to the people, because most of the tourists or the visitors that come, the foreigners that come,
mm-hmm.
they don't really show their faith. And he says,
Right.
you made a great example by doing that. And so I've always remembered that it's that, even though you're doing it yourselves privately, it can be a symbol to other people. Mm-hmm. And like number 2 on that list that you're talking about, it puts us into the story. And I think that's one of those experiences where I think it really did, as far as our students were concerned.
Right. Yeah, of course, and that's kind of in a case too where you're in an area where there is a lot of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And as another thing Pope Francis mentions is they remind us that Jesus suffers with us. And he writes, or said it, this was in World Youth Day in 2013, the cross of Christ bears the suffering and the sin of mankind, including our own. Jesus accepts all this with open arms, bearing on his shoulders our crosses, and saying to us, have courage, you do not carry your cross alone. I carry it with you. I have overcome death, and I have come to give you hope, to give you life. That's a beautiful message. Mm-hmm. for these stations. I always love the reflections that come with stations. Admittedly, there are some reflections out there that are kind of weak, but some of the reflections I've seen out there are just absolutely beautiful, and they remind us that we are to unite our sufferings with Christ's. And it's something important to remember. They also compel us to action, Pope Francis tells us. But the cross of Christ invites us also to allow ourselves to be smitten by his love, teaching us always to look upon others with mercy and tenderness, especially those who suffer, who are in need of help, who need a word or a concrete action. And I think that's something we need to realize too, is everything we do as Catholics goes out.
Right. I have a question, just on the Stations of the Cross.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use one of the traditional forms of it, like the Liguori?
Yes.
Or do you, and when you do it as written, or do you give some sort of exegesis on it at some point?
No, I just go right with the book.
Okay.
Because I like the reflection of course, there's a reason why it's a traditional reflection that's lasted this long.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a beautiful reflection.
I do too, but when you were talking about being compelled to action, I kind of wonder how it sounds to the modern generation. I don't know if those reflections speak to them in the same way. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I think when I reflect on them, I see a lot of beauty in them. But of course, I've studied spirituality and theology and religion and for years. So I don't know. We get. That's an interesting thought, though. Does it is there ways that we can do it? And I think that was kind of one of the things that they can do at World Youth Day is they can come up with these stations that are a little more, the reflections are a little more current,
Mm-hmm.
if you will. I think there's still, the message is still there. It's just how do we hear it?
Right.
In what can be seen sometimes as kind of flowery language.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And I've had some, when I was doing campus ministry, some of the students would say they found it difficult to get into the message of the stations because of the calisthenics involved. I mean, there's a lot of kneeling and
Yeah.
and things like that, and they were like, I was just trying to get through it because it was painful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Believe me, I know. I use it as my aerobics every week. Genuflect up, kneel up, walk to the next one, repeat 14 times.
And do you sing the Stabat Mater?
Yep.
Yeah, and
Oh, yeah.
and we did it, and it seemed like every station was in a different key.
Oh yeah. I think I finally got myself trained out of that, but oh yeah.
No, but I appreciate the Stations of the Cross, and I wish we did it more often. I don't think it needs to be just a Friday of Lent thing.
Exactly. Well, that's it. There's one gentleman here who during adoration, we have First Friday adoration, and he will do that. He will actually do the stations during his adoration time. It's very, very beautiful. It's a very beautiful beautiful practice. There as you're in the presence of our Lord, you're meditating and walking with Him on the cross. Of course, the greatest experience of the stations is being able to go to Jerusalem and do it. Being able to go there too, where our Lord actually walked. I've had that experience twice. So that's kind of a hint. If you ever get the chance to go to the Holy Land, go to the Via Dolorosa, go do the Stations of the Cross there. It's so beautiful. Such a beautiful experience. Some other places I've done it are if you've ever go to some of these outdoor shrines, sometimes they have very beautiful station walks that you can literally walk, and sometimes they're pretty lengthy walks. They're not just a little short jaunt down the sidewalk, but it's actually a rather significant path. And that's a beautiful thing to do. Either Steve is very, very still or he's just frozen. We're having technical difficulties again. Oh, this is fun. So I think this is a good time to take a break real quick. We're kind of about that time anyways. We've been going for about half an hour. So just kind of take a quick break and thank those who've contributed to SQPN. Thank those who helped out SQPN. About a month or so ago, we did our big fund drive hangout, and it turned out very well. We had a very good response. And of course, SQPN still needs the support, still needs the help. We again thank those who helped. You can help out by going to the Amazon link on sqpn.com. When you shop, you can get your goods there, and Amazon doesn't charge you a penny more. I've done this before. Doesn't charge you a penny more, but it does give SQPN a little extra contribution, a small percentage, not too much, but a small percentage to help offset our expenses. You can also go to smile.sqpn or smile.amazon.com and set up SQPN as your charity of choice, because SQPN is a 501c3 charity. So or nonprofit, I guess I should say, not charity, but nonprofit. So you can we can receive your contributions from that as well. Bluehost is also a hosting provider that has partnered with SQPN. SQPN gets a little cut when you sign up with them and use the code from SQPN. Again, all that information's on the SQPN website. So we thank those who've contributed to SQPN, those who help keep us going, those who help again with your contributions, with your support, with your prayers as well. We can always use prayers to kind of keep SQPN going as we look to the future. That is the message of the upcoming CNMC in Atlanta, is not just looking back at the past, not just looking back at the past 10 years, but looking forward to where we want to be in the next 10 years. Every organization needs to do that, and it's a good thing too, because it can be a time of celebration, and CNMC in Atlanta will definitely be a celebration. So I hope to see you all there. I hope to see everyone that can come and join us and have a good time, and hopefully learn and make connections, and help us kind of come up with ideas and go forward from there. Well, looks like, oh, and he's back. I think he's coming back. There he is, and the phone rings.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, gosh, what a bad time for it to crash.
Oh no, that's all right. I actually used the opportunity to sneak in a little break there. So talk about promote contributions to SQPN and Amazon and all that. So that was a perfect time.
Yeah, can you hear me all right? I switched over to my laptop because my desktop is apparently still unstable.
So. Yeah, you sound great. Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay.
So.
Gosh, nothing like having to vamp on the fly.
Well, I figured either you were sitting really, 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 really still, or you crashed. And when I paused for a sec there and you didn't move at all, it's like, okay, keep going.
Yeah.
So, well, I mentioned just briefly the CNMC, and of course, so some people that will be there are some of the Daughters of St. Paul. We will have some members of the Order of the Daughters of St. Paul. And you pointed out an article that they're celebrating their 100th anniversary.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, what a great order they are, and they're media focused, and to think that they're 100 years old,
Mm-hmm.
that speaks a lot for the fact that think of the media that they started with. It was just publishing, right?
Exactly.
And all the wonderful things they do now.
Yeah. Well, we've got so many friends of this show, of SQPN, of the CNMC. We've got Sister Ann, the nun blogger,
Mm-hmm.
Sister Helena Burns. We've got so many of these sisters that they're out there, and they're just wonderful people. I love the Daughters of St. Paul.
Yeah,
and they do such good work.
And they're such wonderful to have at the CNMC. When we're all running around doing all these different things, and there's this sort of this calm demeanor about all of them that just sort of brings everybody back to
Yep.
grounds everybody. I love having them there.
Yeah. Oh, they're so much fun, and they do such good work. They're, of course, they're still publishing. They publish a lot of the papal documents. They publish my little actually my daily missal that I use. I don't have it here. It's upstairs in my prayer room. That's a Daughters of St. Paul edition. And,
okay.
Which I love it. I think it's probably one of the nicest daily missals out there. They're on video. They do audio. They're a lot of social media presence. We mentioned Sister Helena Burns. She does a lot of work out there on the social media. Sister Ann does too. There's others. I think of so many of them. I can't pull their names off the top of my head, but you see them all over the place. If you're looking in the Catholic blogosphere, you're in kind of the Catholic social media circles, they're out there.
Mm-hmm. Now they're related to the Paulist Fathers, aren't they?
No, I don't believe they are.
No? Okay.
I don't think so. I think the Paulist Fathers is a separate order. Now, maybe not. I know their founder, Blessed James Alberione, did found multiple orders. So I may be wrong. They might be. I don't think so. For some reason I thought the Paulist Fathers was an older order.
It may be. I don't know. All I know, the only reason I mention that is I know that the Paulist Fathers do a lot of publishing as well. A lot of the materials we used in Papua New Guinea were printed by the Paulist Fathers in India.
Okay.
So I think they have at least a similar sort of charism then.
They do. And here in the United States, the Paulist Fathers do publish a lot of. They've got Paulist Press here in the United States, and there's been Daughters of St. Paul Press. Excuse me. No, they are not related. I just Google to the rescue. They were founded by another Father Isaac Thomas Hecker. Founded them, the Paulist Fathers, and the Daughters of St. Paul were founded by Blessed James Alberione, and I know his canonization is in the process as well. I don't know where it's at yet. It's not official yet, but it's in the process right now.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah. Oh, speaking of that, did you hear? Here's a little segue. Did you hear in the news that Saint Teresa's parents are going to be canonized?
yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know much about them other than I've read the life history of Saint Therese and I know
hmm
they supported her and everything, but I don't know much about their lives.
Yeah, I don't know what's out there besides what we see there. Being patient with her when she was kind of a stubborn child is one thing. Oh,
That'll make a saint out of any parent, right?
exactly. It was that's the funny part is, everybody has this picture of Saint Therese as this perfect angel. And to be honest, when you read Story of the Soul, she kind of comes across like that towards the end.
Right.
But when she was up till about the age of 6 or 7, she was a very willful, stubborn, overly emotional child. She would cry on the drop of the hat, and she admitted that in the Story of the Soul. She said as such. I mean, yeah, that
Yeah.
that would definitely give parents a reason to be saints.
Yeah. Well, I'll look forward to reading the I don't know I don't know what they call it, but when they canonize someone,
hmm
they always publish a life history
Right,
or talk about it. Anyway, I always enjoy reading those.
right. Yeah, I think well, what is the term? Darn it, hagiography.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a good word.
Yeah, well, that's the word for it. I took a class on it, though. That's why I can remember it. It took a little while, but
Yeah.
no, I'm looking forward to it as well. Of course, it says something when, what did they have? 3 daughters enter the convent, and one of them's a saint,
I think that's right. Yeah.
because there's the 3 of them that entered the same convent. One of whom was the mother superior over Saint
Oh,
Therese.
that's right. That's right. Your older sister. That must have been interesting sitting around the table,
Yeah, my
Sister,
sister, the
sister.
mother. Yeah.
Right. Oh gosh.
No, that's a wonderful thing. Yeah. Now, do you know when that's going to happen? I can't remember.
Oh gosh, I had it pulled up before my computer crashed and I don't remember.
Have to see if we can find that here. It's probably in the notes here too.
Yeah.
And I didn't grab that one. Um, oh, there we go. Canonization. Let's see if we can pull it up real quick. Fortunately, my internet's not terrible, so it doesn't take too long. In October. Okay, as part of the Synod of the Family. Well, that makes sense.
Oh,
Oh, they
okay.
had 9 children, 5 of whom entered the religious life.
Wow. Wow.
And as far as I know, this is the first time that both parents, yeah, it'll be the first joint canonization of a married couple. Now, there are other couples, especially kings and queens and
Mm-hmm.
people like that, who have been both canonized, but not together, apparently.
Hmm. Well, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah. How does that work then? Are they, will they always be a pair? You know?
I don't know. I don't know. We'll find that out when we get to heaven, I'm sure.
Right.
Well, I suppose it's like Cyril and Methodius, who were very close, and they're always spoken of together. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what it'll be like, I guess.
Yeah. Well, cool.
But no, that'll be good.
Have you ever been to a canonization mass?
I never have. I'd love to. I
I
would absolutely love to.
I was lucky enough. We were in Rome with a group of students, and initially our schedule wasn't going to allow it, but then somebody gave us tickets, and so we went, and it ended up being there was like 4 or 5 saints being canonized at the same time, and one was um, Saint. I'm going to say it wrong. Saint Gianna Beretta Molla.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I
Wow.
tell you, that was moving because she died of cancer.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, and there I think he's going again. Yeah, there he goes. Okay. To kind of complete his story, she died of
oh, sorry.
oh, you kind of paused there for a bit.
Yeah. Let's see. She died of cancer rather than sacrifice her daughter,
Yep.
her unborn daughter. And so at the canonization, her husband husband and that daughter were there to present her
Hmm.
relics to the
Oh
Pope, and
wow.
it was moving. It was.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Here are the relics of my mother, who's now a saint.
Yeah, because she didn't want to abort me,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. That if I could have taken any group of students to a canonization mass, that was a good one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's definitely an example. I know she's being held up as a patroness for the pro-life cause for just that reason.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
that she was willing to give her life to spare her child instead of the other way around.
Right. And I was always struck too that she was a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and so when she made that decision, she knew full well what was going to happen to her. What she was going to have to go through and to suffer because of that. And so there was no hesitation on her part, and she fearlessly accepted that, um, knowing full well what her future was going to be. So that's also very moving to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's extremely impressive, and it does take away one of those arguments in the pro-life movement. Well, only those uneducated women
Hmm.
would fight against abortion. No, this is a woman who she knew exactly what it was, and she was 100% pro-life.
Right.
There's no question. And I've read some of her writings, some things she's written, letters to her family and so on that have been made public, and she was very well aware and very clear about I could never do this. I could never abort a child.
Hmm.
It wasn't just, well, in this case I'm not going to. It's she was 100% abortion is wrong. It is always wrong.
Hmm.
Period. And again, she was a doctor.
Right.
She had that training. She knew exactly what it was.
Hmm.
So that's a beautiful thing. It's very I would have that would have been a good one to be to absolutely.
Yeah. And yeah, it was terrific.
Then you see pictures of the one with John when John Paul II was elected was canonized, and it's just insane. People
Yeah.
were a mile away, and it was just crowds.
I wasn't there, but I was very fortunate to be there with Father Roderick at the beatification mass,
Oh
and
sure.
and that wasn't it was as big, I guess.
Oh I bet.
But that was a fantastic experience.
I
Yeah.
bet. To see that kind of crowd is just
Hmm.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, and half of them are Polish. So
Yeah,
I don't think there was anybody left at home.
yeah. The entire country of Poland showed up.
That's right.
Oh well, that's what's so funny to me is some of these events. There may be more people there in Rome for that event than there is in my entire state.
Yeah, probably. And they know how to manage it too. I mean, they have to do it so frequently, I guess, in Rome.
Yeah.
They have it all worked out.
Well, and I'm sure for people who live in Rome, it's basically you don't go near Vatican. You just don't
Right.
go. You go
Yeah.
elsewhere. It's kind of like when there's a big sporting event, like a World Series or a Super Bowl or something like that in a city here in the United States. People say just don't go downtown.
Hmm.
It's the same kind of thing. All the Romans are saying, oh, there's a canonization today. Don't go near the Vatican.
Yeah. Especially one like that where
Yeah.
1 million or 2 million people are going to show up. Yeah.
If you live near there, go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Time to go on vacation. They
I'm
do
sure
that a
they
lot
do.
in Rome anyways, so
Yeah. Uh,
oh, let's see
well,
here.
what's next? What should we talk about?
Well, we can go back to Lenten practices.
Okay.
One thing I definitely want to talk about is the importance of confession during Lent, and it's
Hmm.
something I've emphasized here in my parish. Well, it is a beautiful practice to prepare ourselves for celebrating our Lord's passion, death, and resurrection by cleansing our souls. So I always try to emphasize, this is the time to go to confession. If you go to confession anytime, go during Lent.
Hmm.
Because it's first of all, it's a beautiful sacrament. We don't use it enough. But secondly, it is so important for giving us that, as the Psalm says, renew a clean heart in me, O God, or give me a clean heart, O God, and renew in me a steadfast spirit.
Hmm.
Such an important point. And it's also a chance to see our Lord's mercy, his mercy and his love. And I love being able to hear confessions. I truly do. Sometimes people are so nervous about coming in. It's Father hasn't heard this one. It's like Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just beautiful. I mean, sin's boring, but it's beautiful to be able to hear someone come in and say, God, I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I haven't lived up to your expectations. And we were talking about saints. Well, if you want to be a saint, you got to go to confession.
Yeah.
To connect the two together, you got to go to confession if you want to be a saint. All the saints went to confession. At least all the saints who existed when there was, confession. Not getting into the Old Testament saints, not getting, the I don't know if the apostles, bless me Jesus for I have sinned. I don't know about anything like that, but maybe they did.
Well, I'm sure they had heart-to-heart talks.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that there were times, well, I guess we kind of see that, don't we?
Hmm.
Thinking about St. Peter.
Yeah, really.
He kind of had his confession, if you will, after our Lord's resurrection.
Hmm.
Feed my sheep. So, yeah, I guess it does have kind of that connection back to then. But one thing that, talking about for myself as a confessor, Pope Francis encourages those of us who are confessors, those who are priests, bishops, who have the opportunity to hear confessions, to be merciful. And that's the mercy. You've probably heard the stories, Steve, of, I went to confession 20 years ago and the priest yelled at me and I've never gone back.
I've heard that. I always find it hard to believe, actually.
Yeah, I do too. I've had stern priests, but I don't know if I would say I've ever had a priest. You did what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can imagine that they would. I suppose in the telling from the priest side is different than the reception on the.
Correct.
I'm sure the priest's intention is to be stern, firm,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it was received as I got yelled at, and
Exactly.
and it scared me, to hear the truth or to hear what you don't want to hear, and it frightens you away, and then you end up
Exactly.
blaming the priest for it.
Exactly. Well, and knowing some priests, as a priest, you definitely get to know other priests on very different level. I'm sure there are priests who have fit that stereotype. I guess I'm kind of always been of the opinion that stereotypes exist because people like that exist. Now,
Well, sure.
the problem with stereotypes is when you say all priests do, all people who live in this area do, that's when you start running into trouble. But stereotypes exist because people like that exist. And I'm sure there have been priests who have yelled someone out of the confessional. And that's a priest who, frankly, needed to be reminded of what the confessional is about. There's also the chance that this is a person who said, well, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I'm sleeping with my girlfriend, and I don't plan on stopping. Well,
Right.
if you go and do that, the only response the priest has is, I can't absolve you of your sins.
Right. Where's the contrition there?
Exactly. You have to have the resolve to stop sinning, and saying, well, I'm still doing it, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm going to continue doing it, doesn't quite work. But I think most priests are very much willing to be passionate. They're willing to be forgiving, and they're glad that you're there. They're glad that you're receiving the sacrament, because we realize that we are there as God's mercy, as His love. We all sin. We all fall short of the glory of God, as St. Paul says. But we also can be forgiven. We also can receive that love from God. And so I love hearing it. I love being able to sit there and say, yes, you've sinned, but guess what? I absolve you of your sins. It's a beautiful thing. And it's so funny. This I've heard. We had, with our penance service, we had our first reconciliation. So 7-year-old kids, second grade, third grade kids.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I wish people could hear the confession of little kids, because they're almost always pick 3, didn't do my chores, didn't listen to my parents, picked on my siblings, didn't listen to my teachers, didn't do my homework. Pick about 2 or 3 of those, and that's the confession they give. I mean,
that's very much what my first one was.
I'm sure mine was too. I know mine was too.
I remember standing in line with some of my, what were we, second grade? I remember And we were basically comparing notes before we went in. It's like, what are you going to say? What are you going to say?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And but the kids come out and they just grin. They're just excited. They're elated. They've done it. They've asked for forgiveness. And I've often joked that confession is the best weight loss plan because I have never walked out of the confessional without feeling 10 pounds lighter.
absolutely. The
I
feeling
mean,
of the feeling of relief coming out is so much more than the fear going in.
exactly,
But
exactly.
a lot of people don't. They let that fear stop them.
Yeah. So, my encouragement to people this Lenten season is go to confession. It's a beautiful thing. It's a powerful thing. It's God's mercy given to you. And it's a wonderful thing to hear those words. Your sins are forgiven. Go in
Mhm.
peace. I mean, it's a wonderful thing.
Can
So,
can I put a shout out for the confession app?
oh, yes, absolutely.
Because okay, so there's a lot of people out there, and I was one of them at one time where I hadn't been to confession for a long time, and I was more worried about remembering what to do. It was like I don't even remember the act of contrition. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And there's a confession app out there, and it'll help you figure all that out. And you can take it in there with you, and you can read it off your phone, and take that guesswork out of it.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if every priest would approve of that, but I tell you, if it helped me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, it is nice where you can basically, it lines everything up for you. And it's, even if you don't use it in the confessional, it's a great thing um, to be able to sit and say an examination of conscience every day,
Hmm.
to pull up the app and say, okay, I need to sit down, because we should be doing examination of conscience every day. We
Hmm.
really should. Um, the Fathers of Mercy pamphlet, if you don't have the app, is also a very good resource for that. That's what I have in the back of my church, and it's a very clear examination of conscience. Have you done this? Have you done this? Here's the cardinal sins, and it's wonderful for that.
Hmm.
Same thing as that app. But to be able to sit down and say yes or no, check things off. Have you done this? Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, and I think if you do it regularly, it'll help you avoid the occasion of sin.
hmm
You know, because
But
you'll remember that. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to do that. Or
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's eye-opening too when you first do an examination of conscience, where things you might do that you don't think are particularly sinful. You know, and kind of the common example you might say is, well, yeah, I took a pack of sticky notes and a few pens from the office. I mean, I just, they aren't going to miss them.
hmm
No, it's not a mortal sin. It's not stealing on the level of stealing, robbing a bank, to
hmm
say the least, but it's still a venial sin. It's still
hmm
taking something that is not rightly yours for your use. It's one thing now if you work from home, or if you're going on if going on a trip for your company and you need those sticky notes, or that's one thing. It's another thing if you say, yeah, they're not going to miss it. We got plenty in the supply closet, so I could use them for putting on the fridge at home. Not quite.
Well, yeah, well, right there, you're questioning your own intent when you make those arguments, and so
Exactly.
you should have some pause there.
Exactly. So yeah, no, that's good. That's a good call on that app. I think there's another one. I can't remember what it's. No, it's a Mea Culpa is another good one like that.
I haven't looked at that one.
But the confession app, I think that's kind of the big one. That's excellent.
Yeah,
I,
and
I
I
really
forget
like
who
it.
told me about that. It was either Lisa Hindi or Maria who told me about it, and
Yeah,
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 I find it helpful. Especially when you're standing in line of 20 people and you just kind of like, oh, I'm going to review what I'm going to say when I'm going.
exactly, exactly. And yeah, might get an older priest of, are you sitting over there playing games during confession? No, Father, I'm using an app. I'm using a program that helps me remember what I need to say to you.
Yeah, well, truthfully, I only use the app when I'm behind the screen. I wouldn't do it. I would find it awkward and maybe a little inappropriate to do it while I'm face to face. Just
Again,
personally.
it depends on the priest. I mean, I think I would understand, because I could probably, kind of look at the screen real quick and go, oh, okay, that's a good thing.
Right. I'm referring to my notes, Father.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Actually, that's one thing I do advise. If you don't use the app, when you do your examination of conscience, if you do recognize something you want to confess, try to have some kind of private journal that you
Mm.
can kind of keep. Because I have many penitents who say, well, I know I've done more. I remember coming up with more during my examination of conscience. I just don't remember what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good thing to be able to say, okay, here it is. Here's the list that I can go through. And then, of course, shred that or burn it or something like that. So
Yeah, burning it. I mean, that'd be very symbolic.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, with the disclaimer, that's not going to be like some of those penance services I've been to when the whole general absolution thing was a fad,
Mm-hmm.
where they would have you write one sin or two sins on a piece of paper, take it up to the priest at the front of the altar. He'd read it, put it in a big bowl, and then burn them after everyone is done, and then do
Yeah.
general absolution. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that.
Yeah.
So
We've all had experiences something like that. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of interesting experiments that happened. Well, looking at the clock, we may have actually just about made it through a show there, Steve. So I suppose we
Wow.
better move on to the pick of the week.
Oh
We'll
gosh.
let Captain Jeff insert the pat going here. So, do you have a pick there, Steve?
I'm drawing a blank because I would have said the confession app, but now I'm drawing a blank.
Well, then we'll call that your pick then.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll call that your pick. My pick actually is something that's kind of fun. I didn't get all the way through it, but it's called the Catholic IQ Test, and it's at CatholicIQTest.com, and it's a test of 101 questions. I don't know if the music came over. I hope it didn't, but 101 questions that can talk about your faith. So I only got through about the first 10 or so because someone just forwarded it to me this morning.
Hmm.
But like they were questions from the Bible, and I'm sure it's the Bible, the Catechism, devotions, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Different areas of our faith. And the questions were things like, match the quotes to the prophets. Most of it was multiple choice. Pick one of the four choices. But sometimes here are three prophets and here are three quotes. Match the quote to the prophet. Name the three first kings of Israel. So,
I see.
Saul, David, Samuel, or Saul, David, Solomon, and so on. It's very interesting, and it's a beautiful site because every page has on one side or the other a artwork from the great masters of art. So Rembrandt and these beautiful paintings from our history, from our church. So it's very much worth checking out. It's kind of fun. Like I said, I didn't get through it, so I can't tell you what my score was. I'm sure it'll be perfect. Not.
It'll be better than mine, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, but it's very much worth checking out. It's if nothing else, it's fun. It's things like this are good to help you kind of see how you're doing on remembering your faith. And admittedly, our faith is not just up here. It's not just Jeopardy knowledge. As I call it, but it really is. But these are elements that we need to know to live our faith. Mm-hmm. And if you do find things that you missed, well, then maybe that's an area you need to go back and pull up the catechism, the U.S. Catholic Catechism for Adults or whatever resource, and start kind of reflecting on those again. Start studying them again and start thinking about them. We're all always in need of study, so. Mm-hmm. So and like I said, it's kind of fun. It's always fun to take these little tests, although I try to avoid what Star Trek character are you? What city should you live in? Those stupid things you see on Facebook.
Yeah, I avoid those.
I do too. They're kind of like, really?
Yeah.
They're fun, but they're kind of silly too.
Yeah.
So my pick is the Catholic IQ Test.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, definitely. So where can people find you there, Steve?
Everythingisesteban.com. It's been a little quiet over there, but I've got a bunch of photos and things from my recent trips that I want to put up because I've had some interesting places to visit. So I'll share some of those photos with you.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I always look forward to that. It's always kind of fun to see where people have gone and what they've gotten to do and food they've ate. Well, of course, you see that on Instagram, but food they've eaten and beer they drank. And no.
Yeah.
I think my first photo on Instagram wasn't food. No, I think it was food on purpose. I said, let's get this out of the way now. No. So you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, which may or may not be lasting. Who knows? There's always rumors that Google Plus may go away. But you can find me on all those social media at FR Corey Stica, last name spelled Sticha. And my website is frcorey.org, frcory.org. And that's where you can find my homilies, mostly my homilies. I haven't posted really any kind of blog posts in a while, but usually you can find my homilies recorded there. So thanks for joining us. We made it through another episode of Catholic Weekend. We did it.
Yay! That was fun, actually. I enjoyed that.
That was. And I happened to look in the right as we were going to do the pick of the week, or I mentioned the pick of the week. I see Captain Jeff pop into the chat room. So, well, we made it, Captain Jeff. It wasn't too bad of a train wreck. Oh shoot! I forgot to do this during the show. I was going to do my train whistle.
Oh, hey, I like that. That's much better than the things that Jeff usually puts in.
Exactly. Yeah. So, well, good to see you made it to Dallas Fort Worth safely there, Captain Jeff. I think he said he was in D.C. So, boy, that was a heck of a flight. That's always a fun flight, wouldn't it be? Oofta.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Did you just say oofta?
Yes, I did. I'm part Norwegian, so I have to say the oofta, don't you know?
Okay, I caught that and I was like, wait a minute, I've heard that somewhere before. That's all right. You can have your ooftas, and I get to keep my y'all and all y'all.
I kind of picked up the y'all from the Air Force because there are a lot of people from the South and the military, so
yeah,
I kind of say that one. I got my howdy too. I always throw in from Montana.
Yeah, we say howdy down here a lot too.
Yeah. So, well, I'm glad.
It's a Western thing.
It is. Well, I know, of course, you look at the history, like the cattle drives and stuff like that. There were a lot of cattle drives, like from Montana to Texas and places like that. So I'm sure there's a lot of connections back and forth with that too.
I'm sure, yeah. Yeah. Well, I think y'all is a perfectly useful word. We don't have a you plural.
Yeah.
In English.
Well, we joked about that in Latin class in seminary. Is see, so you and y'all.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I was learning some words of pigeon down in Papua New Guinea. They have a you plural. It's you and yupala. So it's. And I was like, hey, that's like y'all, and the class kind of stared at me, and I was like, all right, you don't get it, but yeah, I'm impressed that there's a language that has a built-in you plural that's like y'all.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, well, excellent. Well, glad this turned out.
Yeah.
I was kind of nervous. Okay, how's this going to happen? But. So thanks for everybody in the chat room for joining us, and hopefully we'll have our full crew together again. I know I didn't mention it in the show, but I know Maria's still not feeling well, and Sarah's busy with something. I think she has a company or something like that, and of course Captain Jeff just showed up, so
right.
Sorry they couldn't join us, but yeah. Thanks for everybody joining us. Father Darrell finally shows up. We were going to try to get him in the show. He sent me a text about halfway through the show. Oops, I slept in.
Oh, well. Well, I know I won't be able to make it next weekend. I'll be at another convention.
Sounds good.
So
traveling again.
Not too far this time, just to Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Oh, that's driving distance then, basically, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's 2.5 hours.
Oh, jeez. Car barely gets warmed up, at least by Montana standards.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Put on some good music on the radio or put in a good CD or something. You'll get there before you know it.
Oh, yeah. I've been to Fayetteville a number of times. It's actually a very nice little town.
Cool. Arkansas is actually one of the states I haven't been to. We were talking about the states earlier. That's one of them I haven't been to yet. Have to get down there.
Yeah, there's some nice places in Arkansas. Yeah, it's a boring drive on the interstate when you have to cross the state.
Oh, I bet.
I used to go to Atlanta a lot, for SQPN, and And the only part of the drive that I really dreaded was just the 4 hours it took to cross Arkansas.
Oh, I bet. Nothing out there.
Yeah.
But that's like the well, driving across like Kansas or North Dakota. Mm,
Yeah.
lots of fun. You set the cruise and just go.
Yeah.
You almost look forward to having to stop to use the facilities or fuel up or something, because then at least there's something.
Have you ever had this happen? I remember I used to drive through West Texas a lot, and it was all the time. I was going on the same routes. And I remember this one time, and I got to this one particular town, and I realized that I'd passed through another town and don't remember it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did that before too. When I was this actually, I mentioned going to Saudi Arabia. Before I deployed, I went home for vacation. Well, the military being the military, the day I was supposed to go on leave, I was still working on my security clearance I needed when I was over in Saudi Arabia, because it was a higher security clearance than I already had.
Hmm.
So finally, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the day I was scheduled, I was supposed to be on leave. I finally get all my paperwork done. I finally get the security clearance. I'm ready to
Hmm.
go. And I'm just like, forget it. I'm going. I've got a reservation at a hotel in the Twin Cities. I'm gone. I was living in the St. Louis area at the time.
Hmm.
So I take off, and it's about a 10, 12-hour drive from St. Louis to the Twin Cities. And it's all interstate, but it's still a long drive.
Hmm.
About 1 o'clock in the morning, as I'm about an hour outside the Twin Cities, same kind of thing. I hit an exit, and I realize a big sweeping curve that I always remember, because it is one of those curves that goes on forever. You're
Hmm.
sitting there curved the whole time for like a
Right.
minute or so. It's like, I don't remember that curve. Now I know I made it because I'm still on the interstate,
Right.
but I don't remember that curve.
I know that's always a little bit frightening. It's like I hope I wasn't asleep.
Yeah, just you kind of get in that la la land where the subconscious is taken over and you're not really paying attention.
I know. I don't like that feeling.
Yeah, that's scary. That's one of those where it's the best thing you could do is just pull off either the next exit or even just by the side of the road and kind of get out and slap yourself a little bit and
Yeah.
just get yourself alert till you get where you're going.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Well, Father, this was fun. I'm glad we did this.
yeah, it turned out very well. And thanks again for everybody joining us. We're going to go and stop the broadcast here, and we'll hopefully see everyone next week.
Bye bye.